You keep attracting narcissists. Different faces, same pattern. You've tried therapy, boundaries, choosing better. Nothing works. Carl Jung discovered why. You're not attracting narcissists despite being an empath. You're attracting them because you are an empath. And the real problem, the qualities you hate in them are the exact qualities you've rejected in yourself. In the next 20 minutes, I'll show you the integration work that ends this cycle permanently. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth about how you became an empath. Here's what nobody tells you. Empath isn't your natural personality. It's a childhood survival strategy you've mistaken for identity. Picture yourself at 7 years old in a house where emotions are weapons. Maybe rage that destroys, manipulation that controls, or coldness that abandons. You learned something critical. Survival depends on emotional hypervigilance, reading the room before the explosion, managing everyone's feelings before they turn on you. Every compensation creates an equal shadow. To maintain your empath identity, you had to reject certain qualities entirely. Your anger, too dangerous. Your selfishness threatens your caretaker role. Your boundaries interfere with emotional fusion. These qualities didn't disappear. They went into your shadow, alive but unconscious. You're at dinner with friends. Someone makes a passive-aggressive comment. Before you even process it consciously, you're already adjusting, smoothing it over, changing the subject, managing the tension. Everyone else is oblivious, but you felt the shift in the room and automatically moved to fix it. That's not empathy. That's hypervigilance you've renamed as a gift. Now here's where this gets dark. Every quality you reject accumulates psychological energy in your shadow. That charged shadow material demands expression. Since you won't express it consciously, your unconscious finds another way, by magnetizing people who embody these qualities. You keep attracting narcissists because they're carrying your shadow. The narcissist followed the opposite path to the same wound. Where you overdeveloped feeling, they overdeveloped control. Where you learned to merge, they learned to separate. Where you became boundaryless, they became impenetrable. Their childhood taught them that feelings are liabilities. Vulnerability gets exploited. Emotional expression leads to abandonment. So they built what Jung called armor of consciousness, a defensive structure that keeps feelings out and maintains control. This isn't strength, it's defense against annihilation. The child who concluded, if I don't need anyone, I can't be abandoned. If I don't feel, I can't be hurt. If I'm superior, I can't be rejected. Their grandiosity, compensation for worthlessness. Their control, defense against chaos. Their superiority, protection against devastating inferiority feelings. Their shadow contains exactly what you express constantly: vulnerability, dependency, genuine emotion, the need for connection. Everything they rejected, you embody. When you meet, something unconscious happens. Jung called it shadow projection. Each of you sees in the other the missing pieces of yourself. You see someone with boundaries, self-priority, emotional impermeability. They see someone with feeling, connection, and vulnerability. You get a text from them. Your heart races before you even read it. You check your phone obsessively when they go quiet. You analyze every word they send, looking for hidden meanings. This isn't love. It's your nervous system recognizing the carrier of your shadow. The intensity you feel is your disowned power calling to you through them. You're both relating to fantasies, not people. And fantasies can't sustain real relationships. Every time you leave a narcissist without doing shadow work, you reset the pattern. The problem isn't the specific person, It's your unintegrated shadow-seeking projection. Think about your dating history. Different narcissist types, covert, grandiose, vulnerable, but identical dynamics. Your shadow doesn't care about packaging. It cares about finding screens for your rejected qualities. Jung called this repetition compulsion, your psyche recreating the same scenario until you finally integrate the lesson. Each relationship is another opportunity to recognize what you're projecting, reclaim it, and integrate it. Most people miss this, blaming the narcissist instead. The pattern intensifies. Each failed relationship drives your rejected qualities deeper into shadow. You become more empathic, more self-sacrificing, more boundaryless, which attracts more extreme narcissists. It's a downward spiral of increasing polarization. You're scrolling through a dating app. Someone's profile immediately catches your attention. Confident, successful, slightly mysterious. You feel that familiar spark. Red flags are there if you looked. Vague about their past, slightly dismissive in their bio, mentions being too honest or not for everyone. But your body is already responding. That's not attraction. That's your complex recognizing its next host. But there's something more insidious happening. You're developing what Jung called a complex around narcissism. This isn't just a pattern, it's an autonomous psychological structure that operates independently of your conscious will. A complex forms when repeated emotional experiences cluster around a core wound. Each narcissistic relationship adds more energy to this complex until it becomes a semi-independent entity in your psyche. It has its own logic, its own goals, its own survival mechanisms. This narcissist complex actively seeks out relationships that will feed it. It recognizes potential narcissists instantly. That spark you feel is actually your complex activating. It convinces you that this time is different even when you consciously see red flags. It creates rationalizations for staying. They're just wounded. I can help them heal. They need me. The complex operates like an addiction. You're not addicted to narcissists. You're addicted to the activation of your complex, which feels like intensity, meaning, and purpose. The drama becomes your identity. The suffering becomes your story. The pattern becomes who you are. Breaking free requires recognizing that you're not dealing with a series of bad relationships. You're dealing with an internal structure that's orchestrating them. Until you dismantle the complex itself through shadow integration, you're not choosing partners. The complex is choosing them for you. Jung understood that repressed qualities don't disappear, they accumulate charge. Every time you suppress a selfish impulse, energy flows into your shadow. Every time you judge someone for being narcissistic, you're feeding your shadow narcissism. Eventually, this shadow energy becomes so charged it demands expression. Since you won't express these qualities consciously, your shadow magnetizes someone who embodies them. This is why narcissists feel energizing initially. You're reconnecting with your own repressed psychological energy through them. That excitement isn't about them. It's about encountering your own disowned power. The narcissist experiences the inverse. The energy maintaining their grandiose persona creates equal charge around rejected vulnerability. You become the carrier of their shadow feelings. This creates mutual incompleteness, masquerading as wholeness. Each person borrowing the other's repressed qualities rather than developing their own. But this energy exchange follows predictable phases that most people mistake for relationship stages. The idealization phase isn't about love, it's about maximum projection. You're both encountering the most charged aspects of your shadows. The narcissist seems impossibly confident because they're carrying all your rejected self-assurance. You seem impossibly warm because you're carrying all their rejected vulnerability. The intensity isn't connection, it's shadow recognition. The disillusionment phase happens when reality punctures projection. The narcissist does something that reveals they're not actually the strong protector you projected. Maybe they're insecure, petty, or weak in a moment. Your unconscious reacts with rage because they've failed to carry your shadow properly. When you set a boundary or express a need, the narcissist experiences it as betrayal. You've failed to be the unconditionally loving figure carrying their shadow. The devaluation phase is your shadow attempting to annihilate the failed projection. The narcissist who once seemed powerful now appears pathetic. But you're not seeing them clearly now any more than you did during idealization. You're still projecting, just negatively. The same qualities you once admired become contemptible. Their confidence is now arrogance. Their independence is now coldness. Jung's crucial point: you never actually related to the person. You related to your projection during idealization, and you're relating to your projection during devaluation. The person themselves has been invisible the entire time. But there's a fourth phase most people never reach: the integration opportunity. This is the moment when you recognize the entire cycle as shadow theater. When you can look at the narcissist and see neither God nor demon, but simply another wounded person acting out their own unintegrated material. This phase requires radical honesty, acknowledging that you used them as much as they used you. You needed their narcissism to avoid confronting your own capacity for selfishness. They needed your empathy to avoid confronting their own vulnerability. The relationship was a mutual agreement to remain unconscious. Most people never reach this phase because it requires something excruciating: taking full responsibility for your participation in the dynamic. Not 50-50 blame splitting, but 100% ownership of your shadow projections, regardless of what they did. You can't integrate while someone else is carrying your projection. The work requires withdrawing projections, recognizing that what triggers you in them exists within you. Here's something most shadow work misses. Your body is holding these projections physically. Jung recognized that psychological splits create somatic patterns. The shadow doesn't just live in your mind, it's encoded in your nervous system. Notice what happens in your body when you're around a narcissist. That flutter in your chest, the hypervigilance, the way your breathing shallows. You think that's fear or attraction, but it's actually your body recognizing repressed material. Your nervous system is responding to qualities it simultaneously craves and fears. Empaths typically operate in a dorsal vagal state, freeze or fawn responses that keep you compliant and attuned to others. Your nervous system learned early that mobilizing your own needs leads to danger, so you've trained your body to collapse or merge rather than fight or flee. The narcissist often operates in sympathetic overdrive, constant mobilization, control-seeking, the inability to rest into vulnerability. Their nervous system learned that dropping into ventral vagal safe social engagement leads to exploitation. When these two nervous systems meet, they create what polyvagal theory calls a neuroception of completion. Your frozen system borrows their mobilization. Their hyperactivated system borrows your capacity for calm. Neither system is actually regulating. You're just using each other as external regulators. This is why leaving feels physiologically impossible. It's not just psychological attachment. Your nervous system has become dependent on their presence to access states you can't generate internally. When they're gone, you crash into the dorsal state you've been avoiding: complete collapse, emptiness, the sense that you can't function alone. The integration work must include somatic practice. You need to teach your body that it's safe to mobilize your own needs, set boundaries, take up space, without collapsing into shame or fear. This means literally practicing these states physically, standing in power poses while saying no, noticing when your breath shallows during self-advocacy, learning to stay present in your body when expressing anger. Your shadow isn't just a psychological concept, it's a physiological reality. The qualities you've rejected create muscle tension patterns, breathing restrictions, and nervous system adaptations. Integration requires unwinding these somatic holds, not just understanding concepts intellectually. Social media has weaponized this split. Consider the empath awareness accounts, endless content about being too sensitive for this world or absorbing everyone's energy. This isn't awareness, it's identity crystallization. Every like reinforces the persona. Every share deepens the split. The algorithm rewards the performance, not integration. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Building an online identity around being an empath is itself narcissistic behavior. The need for constant validation of your sensitivity, the special victim narrative, the attention your suffering generates. These platforms create echo chambers where empaths gather to discuss narcissist abuse, never recognizing their need for validation mirrors the narcissistic wound. Anyone suggesting personal responsibility gets labeled narcissist sympathizer. The digital age doesn't just reflect the empath-narcissist split, it actively reinforces it. You're entering relationships with rigid identities formed online. I'm an empath becomes fixed declaration rather than temporary adaptation. But here's where it gets insidious. You're performing empathy for validation while calling others narcissists for doing the same thing with power. Both performances, both seeking external approval for internal wounds. Here's where the pattern gets generational. You're not just repeating your own trauma, you're repeating your family's shadow inheritance. Jung understood that families operate as psychological systems where shadow material gets passed down like DNA. Look at your family structure. Somewhere in your lineage, there's likely an empath-narcissist pairing. Maybe your empathic mother and narcissistic father, or your martyred grandmother and domineering grandfather. You didn't just learn the empath role, you inherited it as an unconscious family assignment. Think about Thanksgiving dinner. Your mother is in the kitchen, managing everyone's dietary restrictions, emotional states and conflicts, while insisting she's fine and doesn't need help. Your father sits in the living room holding court, telling stories where he's always the hero. You watch this dance you've seen your entire life and something clicks. You've been living out your mother's unlived anger and your father's disowned vulnerability. The pattern didn't start with you. Family systems maintain equilibrium through role distribution. Someone carries the feelings for everyone. Someone carries the power. Someone carries the shame. Someone carries the denied aggression. These aren't conscious choices. They're unconscious assignments that children absorb to maintain family stability. You became the empath because someone needed to carry the family's rejected vulnerability, emotional labor, and relational glue. Perhaps a sibling became the narcissist, carrying the family's rejected ambition, boundaries, and self-interest. Different roles, same system. This creates what Jung called psychic inheritance. You're living out unlived aspects of your ancestors' lives. Your grandmother who couldn't express anger. You're carrying her repressed rage in your shadow. Your grandfather who couldn't show vulnerability. That's the weakness you're projecting onto narcissists. The pattern won't break until you recognize you're not just healing yourself, you're interrupting a multi-generational transmission. Every time you integrate a shadow quality, you're breaking a family curse. Every time you consciously express what your ancestors repressed, you're liberating the entire system. But here's the resistance you'll face. Your family system will fight your integration. When you start setting boundaries, your family may accuse you of becoming selfish or acting like a narcissist. They're not wrong to be disturbed. You're disrupting the equilibrium they depend on. Your integration threatens the entire family's shadow arrangement. If you stop carrying everyone's feelings, who will? If you stop being the emotional regulator, where does the family's anxiety go? Your healing forces everyone else to confront their own shadows. This is why family members often sabotage your growth or distance themselves when you change. They're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to maintain the system that keeps their own shadows projected. Your authenticity is an unconscious threat to their defenses. Integration sometimes means accepting that certain family relationships can't survive your wholeness. The people who loved you as the empath may not be able to love you as an integrated person. This grief is part of the work, mourning the fantasy that you could change without losing relationships built on your performance. Real integration requires specific phases. First comes shadow recognition, seeing that your intense reaction to narcissism reveals your own shadow material. What triggers you most points directly to your repressed content. Here are the concrete practices Jung used. The mirror practice. Every morning, look yourself in the eyes and say 3 narcissistic statements. My needs matter. I deserve priority. My feelings are important. The discomfort you feel? That's shadow resistance. Stay with it until it shifts. The strategic no. Record every time you want to say no but say yes. Don't judge it, just notice. Weekly, choose one situation where you'll practice saying no. Start small, denying a favor request, not responding to a text immediately. The anger journal, 5 minutes daily of uncensored anger writing. Not to send, not to share. Let yourself be petty, unfair, cruel on paper. This isn't who you are. It's shadow material seeking recognition. The selfishness hour, 1 hour weekly of pure, unapologetic selfishness. Not self-care disguised as productivity. Buy something unnecessary. Ignore a call. Take the last piece. Feel the guilt. That's your shadow integrating. The projection map. List everything you hate about narcissists. Then find where each quality exists in you. They exploit others becomes, I exploit people's guilt to get my emotional needs met. This isn't self-attack. It's reclamation. Through this work, you discover that selfishness, consciously integrated, becomes healthy self-preservation. Boundaries become loving limits. What you called narcissistic traits become appropriate self-worth. The final phase is what Jung called the transcendent function, the emergence of a third option uniting opposites. You become neither empath nor narcissist, but something new. A whole person capable of both giving and receiving, feeling and thinking, connecting and separating. How do you know it's working? Jung identified specific markers. First, the charge decreases. Narcissists stop triggering intense reactions. You observe narcissistic behavior without feeling personally attacked or compelled to fix it. This isn't numbness, it's neutrality. You've reclaimed the projection. Second, your dreams change. Empaths doing genuine shadow work often dream of befriending or becoming the narcissist figure. These aren't nightmares, they're integration dreams showing your psyche reclaiming projected material. Third, you develop shadow humor, catching yourself being narcissistic and finding it amusing rather than horrifying. Look at me taking the last cookie without guilt. My shadow would be proud. Fourth, attraction patterns shift. You stop magnetizing extreme narcissists because you're no longer carrying the opposite extreme. Instead, you're drawn to balanced people who've done their own integration work. Finally, the victim story dissolves. You stop needing to tell everyone about the narcissists who wronged you. Not because you're suppressing it, but because it no longer defines you. You see those relationships as shadow teachers rather than perpetrators. Every narcissist you attracted was your shadow begging to come home. Jung knew this. You can't attract what you already own. The moment you integrate your shadow narcissism, reclaiming your right to exist for your own sake, the pattern ends. The empath identity is costing you your life. Choose yourself, not someday, now. Comment below with one quality you judge most harshly in narcissists. That's your integration roadmap. Subscribe if you're ready to stop the pattern today. Click the next video to continue this work. Your shadow's been waiting your entire life for permission to exist. The work begins now.